look at subtracting mixed numbers now. Okay, so we have two mixed numbers here. We have 2 and 5/6 minus 1 and 3/4. Just looking at these, I can see that they do not have the same denominator. So my first step with subtracting mixed numbers is to get these the same denominator. So I am going to use the least common denominator method. So I'm going to create my multiples chart and find out what the least common multiple between these two numbers is. So I have 6, 12, 18, 24, 4, 8, 12, 16. Looking at my charts, I can see that they both have 12 in common, and that's the smallest number, so that would be my least common denominator. So I'm going to create my equivalent fractions. 2 and 5/6 would be how many 12ths? So I multiplied 6 times 2 to get 12, so I'm going to multiply 5 times 2, which is 10. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my 1 and 3/4. So 1 and 3/4 is how many 12ths? So I multiplied 4 times 3 to give me 12. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 3 to get me 9. So now I am subtracting 2 and 10/12 minus 1 and 9/12. And they have those same denominators, so I know I can work. I'm going to stack up my two mixed numbers so that I have my fraction on top of my fraction and my whole number on top of my whole number. And with my, and that's a subtraction sign, not addition. With my subtraction, I am looking at just my numerators because I already know they have the same denominator. So this problem, 10 minus 9 is 1, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So I know that my answer is 1 and 1/12. I'm also going to show you another example of a subtracting mixed number because this problem was very simple. We didn't have to borrow or carry anything. So I'm going to show you an example where you will have to borrow and regroup. Okay, so our next problem, we're going to do 3 and 2/5 minus 2 and 7/10. So looking at these two mixed numbers, I have different denominators, so I need to go ahead and create a common denominator. And I know that 5, a multiple of 5 is 10, so I'm going to use 10 as my denominator. So 5 times 2 will give me 10, so I'm going to multiply 2 times 2, which will give me 4. So I now have 3 and 4/10 minus 2 and 7/10. Okay, I'm going to stack up my numbers to make it nice and clear of what I am subtracting. So right now I have 4 and a 7. 4 minus 7. I can't do that one right now, so I'm going to have to borrow. So just like if you're borrowing with regular subtraction, like if this was 34 minus 27 and you borrow from the tens, and then you add that 10 over here to create 14, we're going to do the same idea and we're going to borrow with our fractions. So I'm going to borrow from my 3 and I'm going to take a whole away. So this is going to become 2 and I'm going to add that whole over here to my fraction. But instead of adding 1, I'm looking at my fraction and it's in tenths. So I'm going to add 10 over 10 because that equals 1 whole, but I want it in fraction form. So I'm going to add my 10 over 10, which is the whole I borrowed from my 3. So now I'm going to add 4 plus 10 is 14 tenths. So instead of subtracting the 4 tenths, I'm now subtracting from 14 tenths. So 14 tenths minus 7 tenths is 7 tenths. And then 2 minus 2 is 0. So I know that my answer is 7